Everything we do in life comes down to choices. But let's face it, we live in an overwhelming world. Do any of you feel you do not have enough distractions and choices happening every day? Anybody want more distractions? Do you want your phone to buzz just a little bit more? Everything we do comes down to making a series of choices. You all had to decide if you were going to come to this event today. If you live locally, you had to decide what route you were going to take. If you live far away, you had to decide if you were going to fly or drive. We are bombarded constantly with choices, and this is true in everything. In fact, the example I want to give you is how many of you occasionally, because you want to treat yourself, or every single day because you're a total addict like I am, go to a Starbucks or similar type coffee house? Come on, show the hands. I like the little half hands, like I don't want to admit to a $7 cup of coffee. But have you ever thought that when you go into that Starbucks and you stand in line, and there's always a line at Starbucks. When you get up to the front and they say, "Welcome to Starbucks, can I take your order?" Have you ever thought at that exact moment you have 70,000 beverage choices that you could make? People look at me and they say, "Tom, 70,000 beverage choices? I just want a cup of coffee." But they have 4 sizes, they have 3 flavors going in the morning, and plus a decaf. They have all of the frappuccinos that they make in the blender. They have all of the bottled drinks that you can get out of the fridge. They have all the teas that they can brew for you. But where it gets really fun is when you get over to the specialty bar where they make the flavored lattes. They have all the different types of milk. There's skim milk, 2% whole milk, there's oat milk, there's rice milk, there's almond milk, and then they have all the syrups. And every syrup then comes in a flavor that's sugar-free. So when you do the math of all of that, it comes out to over 70,000 choices. But when I get up to the front, I always order a grande non-fat vanilla latte. Do you guys know why I do that? Because I know it, right? Anybody else? It's easy. I know the grande non-fat vanilla latte. I like the grande non-fat vanilla latte, and I am not too proud to stand up here in front of the amazing clients of Midwest Speakers Bureau and tell you all the grande non-fat vanilla latte makes me feel warm inside. I'm sure the mocha tastes really good, but it costs $7. I don't want to risk it. So I always go back to what I know, even with all of those choices. But that's what's happening in your industry, in your company, in your career. People are choosing who they're going to hire, who they're going to do business with, who they're going to collaborate with, based on who do they have that warm feeling with. So it's really important in a day where we are bombarded by social media and likes, links, shares, and follows. And by the way, I'm not anti-social media. I have been tweeting about things happening here already. I love social media. However, we need to remember that when we're interacting with people, other carbon-based life forms, when we're with people, we have to remember to choose people. So what I teach isn't networking. What I teach is human engagement. Now, sometimes when I'm hired to come into an organization and they introduce me, people in the audience think, "Oh my God, they hired the networking guy for an hour." And then they sort of roll their eyes, like, what are we going to have to sit through? Well, first of all, I'm here to tell you, if you roll your eyes, I can see you. But secondly, I don't talk about what we think are the normal networking things. I talk about how do people, whether they're more introverted or extroverted, how do they really get to building relationships that matter? So how many of you self-identify as introverts? I know, stupid question, introverts don't raise their hands. But here's the thing, this whole idea of networking isn't networking introvert versus extrovert. In fact, our society has done a disservice to the introverts because introverts are actually better at networking. Some of you made a face like, what? What do you mean introverts are better at networking? Introverts will ask more questions and listen more closely, which means it's easier to build a meaningful relationship. Now, I'm an extrovert. I've had to learn to shut up sometimes and listen to what other people have to say, because it's in what they say is how you figure out where am I going to take it farther. So the takeaway that I give my audiences is E equals MC squared. Who came up with that originally? Einstein. Well, I'm not going to pretend I'm as smart as Albert Einstein or that I have any idea what E equals MC squared meant. But I have stolen it, repackaged it, and I give it to you. And that is engagement equals meaningful connections between 2 or more people. It's that simple. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I hate going to these networking events because there's going to be 50 people there at the break who I have to talk to." You can't talk to 50 people at the break. You can only talk to one person at a time. That's your key. Just engage with the little group of people who are in that conversation cluster, and magical things can happen. The thing I don't do is talk about teaching the elevator pitch. You guys know what the elevator pitch is? This has been taught by networking speakers for decades, and I think it's a huge disservice. The idea is they teach people to memorize something that's cute and quippy about themselves, so that when you meet somebody at that networking event, you don't know what to say. You flick an imaginary switch in your back, and in my case, I would be like, "Hi, my name's Thom Singer. I've written 12 books. I speak all over the country, blah, blah, blah," just verbal vomit all over you. The concept is if you were in an elevator, you could recite that from the 30th floor to the lobby. But if you and I really got in an elevator together on the 30th floor, and I started telling you all about me and how great I am, what would you do when we got to the lobby and the doors opened? Run. All of you said run. And that is the number one answer that I hear from audiences everywhere. They go, "I would get away from you." So the elevator pitch teaches people to repel others. What I want your audiences to do and the people in your companies to do is to attract others, to listen to what people have to say, and to look for where do we go forward. And it's not just about passing out business cards and linking to somebody on LinkedIn 5 minutes after you met them. It's about building trust and accountability. Now, in addition to keynotes, I go into companies and do like 3-hour trainings, and I am actually a certified partner from the Trust Edge Leadership Institute and the Accountability Institute, where I go in and I take this research that these two organizations have put together, and I blend it together with this whole idea of human connection, and we talk about inside your company, building relationships is just as important as it is for salespeople and outward-facing people to do in your business community. So we really try to get into the meaning of how do you build that feeling of trust, because the first time you meet somebody, you don't really trust them. It takes time to cultivate that. And accountability is something that is lacking across the board in our society today. People just let things go. No, if we're gonna have a real, meaningful relationship, I need to be accountable to you, and you need to be accountable to me, and we both have to care. And that's what I'm passionate about, is talking about how do we get back in our society where all we're doing is looking at our phones going like this. You ever been talking to somebody, and while you're talking, they're looking at their phone? What do you think of them while they're doing this while you're talking? Rude. That's the answer that's always screamed out, rude or disconnected. Nobody ever says, "Wow, they're such a good multitasker." No, we have to engage with the people. When you're with people, you have to choose the people. So I call this an uncommon connection. Now, you can only have about 10 or 12 of those. By the definition of uncommon connection, it can't be 500 people. I assume most of you have a LinkedIn profile. Many of you would have 500 to 5,000 or more connections on LinkedIn. And yet, a like, a link, a share, and a follow is not really a connection. Those 5,000 people that you're linked to on LinkedIn did not wake up this morning and think, "Hey, I wonder what Amy's doing, who I met one time 6 years ago and clicked to her." They didn't think of you. But someone who you've built that inner circle with, someone who you've created that relationship with, does, and it brings you opportunity. So here's what I tell people, and I want you to think about this. Adding one person to your inner circle is worth more than adding 1,000 people to your LinkedIn or other social media. Now, I'm a fan of social media, and if you use it correctly, it can help you grow your career. It can help you foster relationships. But adding one person to a real inner circle where you get to know them, you understand who they are, you understand what they're trying to accomplish, and vice versa, that changes lives. A click rarely will change a life. So you've got to think about that. So what I do is when I come in, I'm often the opening keynote speaker, and what I do is I talk about how do we make your event, especially if it's a big industry event, or if it's something where you're having your clients in, where a lot of people in the audience don't know each other, or even if you have a dispersed team who doesn't get together very often. How can we make that 1 day, 2 day, 3 day event, how can we make it a human laboratory? How can we set the tone that says all of the speakers, everything you're going to learn is important, but speakers on a stage, really? You're seeing 14 of us today. Everyone is brilliant. Everyone has something to offer. But you know where the real power is for each of you? It's not from one of us on the stage. The real power today is amongst all of you in this room. Now, we don't have time to get you all up and meet somebody you've never met before. But when we go to lunch, I'm going to challenge all of you to play what I call the power of hello. Look for someone you've never met before who's here with us and just say hello to them. And then here's the magic question that you can ask. So why did you come to this event? and then listen to what they say. Because the reason that Amy came to this event is the different reason than this gentleman came to this event and different than why she came to this event. So what happens is when you start having conversations with people, the energy rises because you start saying why you're here, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. Suddenly you have 2 reasons for being present at the event. So when an event becomes a human laboratory for human connection and engagement, people have more fun. The number 1 complaint I ever get is I've run out of business cards. I always bring a stack this big, Tom, and now they're all gone, and it's because you made me talk to people. Well, bummer. That's why you came to the event in the first place, was for that human interaction. We all learned over the last few years that Zoom was a wonderful tool if you were locked in your spare bedroom. But being able to be here and sharing that vibe is so much more important. So you want to make sure that while you're building the content for a wonderful event, you want to make sure that you're giving equal billing to that human connection part. Because if people come, take notes, go home, and don't meet anybody, the odds of them coming back next year plummet if they have a choice. But if they meet people and they keep in touch with them and they're excited, the odds of them coming back go absolutely through the roof. You might notice I'm passionate about this. I've seen it happen throughout my career, in my personal life, in my faith community, in the community that I live in. Opportunities come to people who have spent the time in choosing others and investing in them. So I challenge you when you plan your next event, will you set your participants up to really engage with other humans? Or on the break, do you all want them in the hallway looking at their phone, checking Facebook? Because if everyone at your thing says, oh my God, it's a 10-minute break, totally time to check email, the success of the event will dwindle with every click that they make on their phone. I spoke at an event of all IT professionals. Meeting planner came up to me at the break saying, what did you do to my people? I have 500 CIOs out there and not a single cell phone in their hand. They're talking to each other. IT people don't talk to each other. She loved it because she said, oh, I've never seen that happen before. You plan for the networking just like you plan for the meals, the activities, and the great speakers that you hire to be there. My name is Thom Singer. It's been an absolute pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.